What's going on, bud? Yeah.
Love you, Sharky. Hello, we're back again. This is Matt O'Leary, and this is it. Top 15 albums of 2017. If you haven't got a chance to see it yet, I also did a video where I went through my top 30 through 16. Some really rare finds in there, some albums that I didn't see on other people's radar, so go back and check that out. I'll link it in the description. Here we go. Starting it off at number 15, it's the 7th album from the English rock band Elbow called Little Fictions. Even with drummer Richter gone, they managed to keep these interesting, brooding, repetitive grooves at the center of their sound. That shuffling Afro beat on Gentle Storm or that Radiohead-esque rhythmic section on K2 are great examples. Then there's Guy Garvey with his syrupy, impassioned Peter Gabriel vocals which just soar on that brilliant opening 1-2 punch of Magnificent and Gentle Storm. The song Trust the Sun is a more subtle favorite of mine with its verses that have this just unassuming, sort of city street at dusk vibe that's so moody, so transportive. Then this gorgeous little piano line transitions us into this moment of just unmatched beauty and clarity and vulnerability. I think it perfectly captures the mood swings of falling in love. Like you're playing it cool to start, you're sort of hanging back in the shadows, and then all of a sudden you just spill it all out in this sappy but pretty touching admission. And Guy Garvey's always had the knack of writing lyrics that on paper would be just sickeningly sentimental, but are actually pretty moving and pretty powerful.
You know who's moving and powerful?
You?
Me.
The music on Little Fictions can be a little bit lethargic at times during the album, but give it some time and it'll get you. It was kind of an off year for me and progressive metal as a whole. I just didn't find a whole lot of albums that really clicked with me, but Soen's Lykaia was definitely an exception. Soen's a Swedish progressive metal and atmospheric rock super band with members from Opeth and from Death and from Willow Tree, and their cold, dark, melodic sound is definitely derivative. Like some of these vocals, some of these guitar riffs, like on the song Sectarian, are dead on Opeth or dead on Catatonia. Some of the bass lines are straight off a Tool record. But I think any unoriginal sound can be completely overridden by quality songwriting and amazing production, and that's exactly what we got here. Orison and Opal are massive tracks with immense choruses that are so full-bodied. And those harmonies on Lucidity, come on. There's just a meatiness, just a raw strength to the sound that just fills a room.
You know who else is raw and meaty?
The self-titled debut from English folk rock band The Silver Reserve is at number 13. Every single song from these guys is first written on the classical guitar, and there's definitely a low-key, sort of baroque feel to the music here, which is really aided by the tender and whispery vocals of Matthew Sturgis. They strike me as a mix between a band that's yet to come on this list, Grizzly Bear, and then the Brazilian singer-songwriter Rodrigo Amarante. There's a progginess to what they're doing too, like songs are changing structure and changing tempo in unfamiliar ways, like on the song A Wild Look with its shuffling finish and guitar lead that's almost Coldplay-like in its simplicity. Then there are some heavier hitting garage rock moments like the song Love 2, which kind of sounds like an old Strokes song. I love that every single year when you're following music there's some really pleasant and just out of nowhere surprises, and this was definitely one. Next up is a dude from Bangalore, India, who's exploring other galaxies in his bedroom. Progressive is such an overused and such a diluted term to describe music nowadays, but I can't help it. This guy is truly progressive. It's Deadstar with the album Baby Teeth, which you can only find on Bandcamp. The second song, All Your Worries, is a great just buffet line of everything this guy has to offer. He starts by blending these gentle, arpeggiated guitars and these ambient electronics into these woozy dreamscapes. Then he shifts into this mathy jazz with crazy time signatures and these winding harmonic synth lines. I put this thing on every time I want to just get some work done, like no distracting vocals and no really abrasive or aggressive tones, but still a ton of energy that just keeps me sharp, it keeps me alert. The only downside I'd say is the thinness of some of the electronic drums here, but otherwise it's an amazingly unique album that really sets a mood. Number 11 is from the Norwegian baritone crooner Sondre Lerche with just a left turn in his career into this vibrant and colorful synth pop. The song I Know Something That's Gonna Break Your Heart goes into some Pond or Tame Impala psychedelia, while the song's Soft Feelings or I'm Always Watching You are just these glitzy, glamorous 80s dance hits. While Violent Game has more of a car seat headrest vibe to it, which starts with this succinct New York rock and spirals into this thrashing Keith Moon stick-flinging jam sesh at the end. It's definitely his most danceable set of tunes, and some of his biggest choruses too, for sure. It's a sophisticated but still really fun, still really light-hearted pop record. Next up is a band that I think's always been one of the most interesting art and folk rock bands out there, juxtaposing organic and extremely processed instrumentation for cerebral results. At number 10, it's Grizzly Bear with an album that just continues to grow on me. It's called Painted Ruins. They have a way of just playing it so subtle, like on Four Cypresses or Systols or the gorgeous opener Wasted Acres. Can every single band do that McCartney-Lennon back and forth vocal thing? Like seriously, that is a winning formula. If you have two guys, two girls, anyone in a band who can sing, like do that. Christopher Bear's technique on the drums is killer as always, like on the song Cut Out, where every single fill seems to be unique, or those snare rolls on Aquarian, just Glass Hillside's got to be my favorite track, with verses that sound like a dirge in the desert, and then we just jump into this bouncy bubblegum synth-led chorus with a melody I had stuck in my head for weeks. This is another layered onion of an album from these guys, more to discover on every listen, and such a deep well, harmonically, lyrically, texturally. Next up is a triumph of brevity. At number 9, it's AM Overcast with Drown to You. This is a DIY pop punk project out of Winnipeg, and it was just one of those crazy finds this year. 14 songs, average just a minute and a half in length, but covers so much ground in that time. There's very little repetition. Most people use repetition as a way to make a mediocre hook more memorable, but he does just the opposite. Like, he'll just hit this amazing hook once and then leave it forever. If you like your emo, if you like your pop punk, a little more immediate, a little more frantic, then this is for you. There's no waiting on slow builds. It's just a non-stop assault of catchiness and mathy instrumentals. There are also some similarities to that Jank album I covered last year. Ask anyone with even a cursory interest in psych rock or alternative music in general, and they'll say 2017, it's the year of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I'm actually putting 2 albums at this number 8 spot, so I feel like I'm cheating, but I make the rules here. So it's Sketches of Brunswick East, the collaboration with Mild High Club, and then their most recent effort, Polygondwanaland. I've been following these guys for a few years now, so seeing them just reach this artistic peak is just so satisfying. Like, they are taking prolific to whole new levels, and they're setting a new benchmark. 4 albums so far, with 1 on the way in 2017 in these final days, and they haven't sacrificed quality for quantity in my mind, and these are the 2 best in my opinion. And 2 totally different albums here. Sketches is going back to this elevator jazz pop sound from Paper Mache Dream Balloon, and Polygondwanaland bringing some complex polyrhythms and some of their most emotional chord progressions to date. We're all just basking in the glory of King Giz. Armenian jazz pianist Tigran Hamasyan comes in at number 7 with a follow-up to the much-loved Mockroot. It's called An Ancient Observer. And these lilting melodies do feel like a view from afar in some ways. I love how he introduces an austere theme, like on the incomparably beautiful opener Marcos and Marcos. Then he messes with the theme and improvises around its periphery, exploring all the harmonic possibilities. Then he just returns to that simple melody at the end, and this kind of mirrors how my mind works when I'm observing something. First off, I see a phenomenon objectively and plainly, and then my mind starts to spiral and wander away from it, expanding on it in improbable and often ridiculous ways. While there are plenty of almost gent-like piano sections where he's just hammering, there are also some more haunting tracks that could be horror movie soundtracks, like Fides Tua or Leninagon. Leninagon if that's how you say it. I don't think it is, but I'm assuming this refers to Vladimir Lenin, as this song's dedicated to the children that survived this awful Armenian earthquake in 1988, which is just before the collapse of the Soviet Union. Beyond being just brilliant musicianship, Hamasyan does this thing where he's always humming along to the melodies, playing like an old jazz pianist like Oscar Peterson. And you can't help but get invested in the music when the artist just seems so fully consumed by it themselves. At number 6, it's a soul searcher and a celebration of womanhood in Semper Femina by Laura Marling. Laura Marling's always taken a lot from folk guitarists and folk songwriters like Bert Jansch or Joan Baez, but certain tracks here have such a modern twist that really refreshes her sound, I think. I love the ghostly production choices on Soothing, which make the lyrics about banishing a spirit from her life even more haunting, while Wildfire explores generational pathology and these artificial identities we're all tangled up in. There's just this biting honesty. What I love most about this album is that it really celebrates the brilliant uniqueness of women instead of questioning the distinction between the sexes. My favorite tracks are Soothing and Next Time and Wild Ones. Next up is the explosive, sprawling, progressive pop self-titled debut from Once and Future Band. This was a super awesome surprise for me this year. It's very 70s and 80s psych pop. But the melodies and innovative song construction move this band beyond mere nostalgia. Like, there are some really unique songs here and such diversity across the 7 tracks that average about 5.5 minutes in length. How Does It Make You Feel blasts in with Beach Boys harmonies and ELO level spectacle, while the song I'll Be Fine touches on some Pink Floyd and Steely Dan-isms, as wailing harmonized guitars fade into this rinky-dink harpsichord which eventually undergirds this momentous anthemic outro. Even on the Chick Corea-infused jazz fusion freakout that is Rolando, there's still a solid melody there. Like, no track is just endless wankery. There's always a solid tune or 2 or 3 at the heart of things. Every song deserves a detailed analysis, honestly, but I'll just leave it at that. It's bombastic, it's constantly meandering, it's thrilling through every song. Number 4, here we go. It's Brooklyn indie rockers Big Thief with their crushingly intimate second album Capacity. Bandleader Adrienne Lenker is really a special talent. Like, the song Shark Smile really shows off her detailed storytelling ability. Her voice is so soft and attenuated, it always sounds like she just got beat up in a fight. And then you're immediately rooting for her because she sounds like the underdog. The guitar work on songs like Capacity and Mythological Beauty and Great White Shark, they're so nuanced and just layered to perfection. And the second half of the album's as strong, if not stronger, than the first half. I just have some really solid memories associated with this thing because I listened to it a ton on a trip to Scandinavia last summer. Robin Pecknold returns from his college stint for the long-anticipated third album by Fleet Foxes. It's Crack Up at number 3. We got Fleet Foxes and Grizzly Bear and Real Estate all making it pretty high on my list this year. Is this 2011 or something? What I still don't understand about this guy is, how do you let off the gas pedal after an album so highly acclaimed as Helplessness Blues? Crack Up's a little bit darker of a take on the lush, cacophonous Fleet Foxes sound. Maybe not as wide-eyed and idyllic as the first two, but the anthemic melodies are still there, the dense acoustic instrumentation, the dramatic dynamic shifts. It's a matured sound, but it doesn't lose that spirit, that essence it had in its nascent stages. And number 2 goes to, in my opinion, the most innovative, the most eclectic rock album of 2017 by far. It's Alex G with Rocket. This album goes all over the place. The lounge jazz on County, the tranquil auto-tuned slacker pop on Sportstar, or the song Judge, which is probably most similar to his last album Beach Music, with that spooky synth line. I swear it's directly from that Springfield Files episode of The Simpsons. Then there's the chaotic, manic hip-hop of Brick, which along with Horse makes for an abrasive turn to an otherwise agreeable and languid listen. It's so brilliant. Alex G, this guy, he's got the audience relationship right. Like, he's got a solid following, but he doesn't have an audience that he's trying to placate or please. And he just keeps pushing the boundaries further and further of what can be considered a rock album, what can be accomplished with a laptop in a bedroom. Every year I've done these rankings, I've only had one real criteria for number one. That is, which album is the most emotionally potent to me? Which one stirred up my internal world more than anything else? And this one, just like Grapefruit from last year or Carrion Low from the year before, definitely did that. At number one, it's the newest modern classical masterpiece from Max Richter called 3 Worlds, music from Woolf Works. This is actually the score from a ballet which celebrates 3 works from modernist English writer Virginia Woolf, a literary titan who delved into the endless complexities of human consciousness by focusing more so on the characters' internal worlds than on the plot itself. And like many of Virginia Woolf's books which highlight these mundane domestic scenes, Max Richter's orchestral swells are minimalistic and familiar. He takes these accessible instrumental palettes like the piano and cello and violin trio in the first of the 3 movements, and he just extracts as much beauty and as much meaning as possible from that limitation. In the second movement, though, he really flexes his digital sequencing muscles by introducing this cohesive mosaic of analog and digital synthesizers. I love just the bizarre interpolations throughout. The first time I heard that track that's placed right after that passage, that spoken word passage about memory, I think it's called Modular Astronomy, woo boy! Or the majestic finale that connects her method of suicide with her book The Waves in this slowly enveloping crescendo. This album really warrants a full review, but I'll say this in summary. Virginia Woolf talks about words as being full of echoes, full of associations. When I give this album its full, proper listen and attention, just some of my most poignant pockets of memory just wash over me in like this healing cleanse. So I'm really thankful to Max Richter for giving me those moments this year and just sparking my interest in this writer in the first place. I don't think I ever would have explored her stuff otherwise. And that's it. That's number one. That's a lot of albums, and now it's really dark. So thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate all the comments, all the subscriptions and everything this year, and I'll definitely continue doing this, so thank you again.